We're making a recording today of Mr. James Hysong at the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
And I'll make this as pain-free as I possibly can. It's pretty easy. Basically, let me say here, you're with the Air Force?
Yes, I was with the 8th Air Force.
With the 8th Air Force, okay. And well, how old were you when you went into the service?
24.
24?
Mm-hmm.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I enlisted.
Did you
and
enlist?
Had a wife and 2 kids at the time.
Did you?
Yes.
And were you from here in Dayton or?
No, I was from Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first went into the service, where's the first place they sent you after you enlisted?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville. And what kind of training did they put you into?
Well, initially basic training and classification
Mm-hmm.
to whether you was going to be a pilot, bombardier, or navigator.
Uh-huh.
And I was classified as a pilot.
As a pilot.
And from there I went to Maxwell.
And where's Maxwell?
Maxwell's in Alabama.
Okay.
And that's where we did our pre-cadet training.
Okay.
And that was for, oh gosh, we went down there, that was for 3 months.
Uh-huh.
And then we went from there to Arcadia, Florida for primary training.
Okay.
That was for 3 months. And we went from there to Bainbridge, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
which was single engine training. And that was another 3 months, and then we went to Albany, Georgia. I don't know what all you want to know.
Oh no, that's good. Basically, this is for history. Tell me about a typical day in your training. What was your training like?
Well,
What did
I
they put
was
you
in
through?
primary training. I flew a BT-13.
Which
No,
is?
BT-17, which
Now,
is
is
a
that a
biplane.
bomber?
No, that was a
A
biplane.
biplane.
I'm
Okay,
talking
which
about
means it
training
has
now.
2 wings, right?
Right.
Okay.
It has 2 wings. It has an instructor in the rear, and you flew in the front seat.
Mm-hmm.
And there you went up for about, I guess it was 10 hours before you would actually be able to solo.
Okay.
And you did certain things with the thing. You did loops, and
Uh-huh.
you walked it down and saw how close you could come to a flag across the runway at the beginning,
Mhm.
and just set it down as close to that as you could. That's some of the things you did.
Okay.
And you learned to go do a little cross country by following railroad tracks and so forth, because that's all you had.
Right. So you
And-
didn't have any radar in your planes
No,
then,
no.
right? Or any of the heads-up
No, you
electronic
flew by the
displays?
seat of your pants. That's an old saying, but that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went from that into the BT-13A, the vibrator, which these planes are in the museum.
Okay.
And that's another single engine. But there you got into more cross-country and acrobatic flying and so forth, and formation flying.
Okay.
And from there we went to Albany, Georgia, which was twin engine. And that was an AT-10. And there you learned really how to get along with the crew and go cross-country.
So how many were there in a crew? How many?
No, your enemies are trainers now.
Okay.
It's just you and the instructor.
Just you and the instructor at this point.
Then you went by yourself.
Okay.
Then we went from there to B-17, so we're going to get to where you want to go.
Now, you said at the time that you were married and had a family.
Yes.
Were they able to follow you when you went through all this training?
Just so happened, yeah, if you wanted to hear that story, that's quite a
Okay.
story. Yes, they did. They stayed with their grandparents, and my wife stayed with her parents, and she worked in a defense plant
Did you?
initially.
Uh-huh.
And then we decided that once I became a cadet, she would follow me down to Arcadia, Florida,
Mhm.
which was primary, with the 2 children. She lived upstairs in an attic in a house which was full of roaches.
Oh.
And she
How
had
old
a
were your
beach.
children at the time?
Oh, let's see, Donna, BJ was 36, 6 years old, and Donna was years old. And they couldn't even sleep at night. They had to leave the light on, and she had to stay awake to beat off the roaches at the time. But we still enjoyed it. And we had a lot of good friends in the cadets with us who helped with the children and so forth.
Yeah.
And then other times we didn't have enough money, so we would go to the restaurant, because that's the only way we could eat. And we'd order 2 meals. She and I would split the 1 meal, and the kids would split the other meal, and that's how we made out. And then she finally started working in J.C. Penney's in the pants department or something, I don't remember.
Okay.
And then when things was over, we all went back to Pennsylvania and initial leave. And from there, I went into B-17s and she stayed home
Did she?
because she was pregnant again.
Was she?
So that's the way that goes.
Yeah.
And then we went to B-17 transition. And there again, you had the instructor
Mhm.
and a normal crew.
Mhm.
And once I graduated from the B-17 transition, then we went over to Drew Field in Tampa, Florida, and picked up the crew. There we were all assigned. We never did meet one another, but we just
Until that
happened to,
point,
we
huh?
saw the list on the board,
Yeah.
and that's where you had 10 people that were assigned to you. And I was the pilot, and Jake was the co-pilot, and I still talk to 3 of them
Do you?
that we have.
Mhm.
And there we would train on formation flying and dead reckoning for navigation and all this kind, and how to use the oxygen and so forth when you got it.
And this was in the B-17?
This was
So this is
B-17.
the plane that you
This is
flew on
the
combat
plane we
missions?
were attached to.
Okay, so how many total crew was there on this plane?
10. We started out with 10,
Okay.
and after the 3rd or 4th mission, we had to get rid of 1, so we sent one of our people to the ground pounders, as was indicated. And if you read the diary that I attached that, you'd see some of this stuff already.
Okay. Okay, now the B-17 was a bomber. Can you tell us a little bit about the plane, what kind of armament it had, how big it was? You know, was it a little difficult to fly?
No,
Okay, did you
One
need a
of the
long landing strip? Or
no, didn't need a real long landing strip.
was this a 2-engine or 4-engine?
It was 4 engines,
Okay.
and it had nose turret, top turret, ball turret, 2 radio side guns, and a tail gun.
Now for the kids,
And
a
it would
turret
carry-
is,
A gun,
okay,
where you have it attached.
okay.
You didn't pick it up and carry it around.
Yeah.
No. And it had carried, let's see, I believe it was 10,000 pounds. I can't remember all this. This is old stuff. I've forgotten all about it, really. And but anyway, it carried it, about 10,000 pounds.
Uh-huh.
B-24, which is another 4-engine bomber in the same era, same circa. It
Mhm.
was carrying a heavier load, but in fact, it was not quite as fast
Mhm.
and not as sturdy as the B-17.
Okay.
B-17, you could lose an engine or 2 engines and make it home. Or you could lose part of the tail or part of the nose or whatever and still come home. So that's the way it was.
Okay. Now, when you were assigned overseas, did you fly the plane over, or did you go on a
No,
Liberty
we went
ship?
over, no, that was the worst part about the Air Force. We went by boat. I should say ship.
Ship.
And I was one of the compartment commanders with all the, you were stuffed in that thing, and but it wasn't bad.
So where did you disembark from? From New York?
Yeah,
New York.
oh yeah.
Okay.
And we landed in, I can't think, in fact, I was just here a couple of years ago.
Was it in England or
Yeah,
France?
no, we landed in England. I won't worry about the name.
Uh-huh.
And we went to Stoke-on-Trent, where Shakespeare was born.
Mhm.
That's where we assembled
Okay.
all the crews, and then you were dispersed from there to the bomb groups.
Mhm.
And we went to the 447th Bomb Group,
Mhm.
and the 708 Squadron, crew number 13. No, it was. And then we started our 35 missions.
Okay.
And that was in either the last part of July or the first part of August.
44.
4.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your missions? What area you flew in? What the missions were like? Can you give me day-to-day life flying combat missions?
Well, you would get up maybe at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if they would tell you were having fresh eggs, you knew you had a rough mission.
Oh.
If you had powdered eggs, it was sort of a milk run, to put it that way. And the mission concerned, you would go to a briefing. The ground crews would be briefed, and as would our flight engineer and the gunners would all be briefed on aircraft recognition and so forth. The bombardier and navigator would be briefed on the target and the navigation system. And the pilots would be briefed on the track and target area and so forth, what that was. And then you would be briefed on takeoff time, whether it be a red flare, green flare, or whatever, to start your engines and to roll down the runway. And you would have maybe 36 aircraft going at one time to take off. And sometimes it would be so foggy you couldn't even see where you were going. You had to look out the window like you do now on a white line and look out the window to taxi down to the takeoff area. And it would be so thick that you would have to go take off with your instruments. You would look at your gyro or your compass and say, there, that's the heading, and you take off. And then after you got up maybe 10,000 feet, you could look back down at your airfield, and there would be a clear path on the fog. It would just be a straight down where the runway was, because they had fanned it off. Taken off with 36 would fan it off. Plus they had all these other aircraft, and I can't remember how many bases were over there.
Now, when you flew, when the bomber squadrons flew, did they have like jet fighter or fighter pilot escort with you?
Well, but first let me get to the assembly part. The group had to assemble, and you had to get to the right group, and you had 1,000 aircraft over the little spot of England assembling around. You had to go by time. You went by compass direction, like 36 degrees, for 10 minutes at 500 or 200 feet a minute at 150 miles an hour. And you had to fly that pattern to get up at the top where the lead aircraft would then start shooting flares. So you could, and almost every day there'd be mid-air collisions before you ever got started with the mission. So that's the way that was. But really, yeah, that's the way that was. So initially we didn't have a lot of fighter escorts because the 51s didn't have a lot of belly tanks to go the complete distance. So if you were going like to Petermundi, where the Germans were producing missiles, or to Berlin, one of the longer missions, you would only get fighter escorts 3/4 of the way. And then you'd be on your own over the target and come back. So that would be, yeah. But that wasn't a typical day. That would be when we went to Mersburg, which is a synthetic fuel place. We would go back there. If I recall, we went back about 5 times, but that was a well-defended target, let's put it that way.
Yeah. So every mission you came out of England to do, or were you stationed?
Everyone out of England, yeah. I wasn't stationed anywhere else.
Okay.
No, in fact, I hurried up to get my 35 in. I didn't worry about being a lead crew or anything like that.
So you had to have
we
35
got a wonderful
missions.
crew. I must say, we had a wonderful crew. And they all worked together, and they all received citations. In fact, Willie was the only navigator on one mission that knew actually where the group dropped their bombs. So we were really efficient. I'm really proud of them. More proud of them I am of myself, because they were good. And our ball turret was Newt, and he was 18 years old when we started out. So other than that, that's typical mission day is get up early in the morning, fly anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, and come back.
Now, how did you stay in contact with your wife and children through this time? Was it difficult to get mail or news home?
No. Well, there was one mission that we didn't make it quite back. We landed in France because we ran out of fuel, if I recall. I can't remember the whole thing. But we spent the night in France. So right away what they do at the base is they wrap up your stuff and put it away. So it was a while before we got to communication. And another instance was that we were down in London on R&R, and we were walking up the street, and a V2 hit the mail office down just about 2 blocks from where we were. We were all over the place, but there wasn't any mail for a while. But that was good.
Okay. And I see on your paper here that you won a Bronze Star. Can you tell me?
That was in Korea.
Was it in Korea? So you served in Korea as well?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. I served in Korea and it started the Vietnam War.
Okay. Now let me make sure I have everything on World War II. Can you tell me, were there some, just anything that you'd like to tell me as far as some of your
well,
combat
like the one
missions
mission
there?
I said we landed in France. The other mission,
Sounds...
I got it all. Hall, our flight engineer. engineer surprised me. He kept a complete diary of all the missions.
Did he?
Yeah, and
Oh,
we included it, and that's why I only read
they're
them
making
here.
copies, so, yeah.
Well, he's gonna send me the whole thing.
Okay.
That was his selected missions that,
Oh.
that he sent us. And the one we landed in France. The other one, we barely made it home because we had to ask for air sea rescue. We threw everything overboard. We were down to 1.5 engines, and that's how we made it back to the base.
Truly a wing and a prayer.
Well, yeah, in another case, we were all shut up, didn't have, lost our hydraulic systems, and only had one shot brake. So what we did is land at a recovery base on the coast of England, so it had an extra long runway. So when we went down, then I could brake one time, and we were there safe on that one. But that's what it is.
But you seem to have made it back. They didn't
Oh,
shoot you
sure.
down over enemy territory?
No, nothing like that. That's what I say.
Did you lose any of your crew members through this?
Nope.
So everybody
No.
made it back?
Yeah.
Now, where did you got your missions in? Did you get all of them in before the war ended? Or were you there
Sure. I came home in December of '44.
in December 44?
And the rest of the crew came home same time.
Did they? Okay. Now, when you came home, you stay in the service? Or tell us a little bit about what it was like coming home. Was it different? Did you have any problem adjusting? Was it
No.
a little bit about the days?
No. I think everybody, I don't know what other people say, but I just came home and we spent, they sent us to Miami, I can't remember, Miami Beach
Mhm.
for 2 weeks or something like that, supposed to recruit. Well, the only thing I did is I had a false tooth replaced. I lost a front tooth. But from there then, I just was normal, went back out here to Lockburn,
Mhm.
Columbus. It's Rickenbacker now, I
Yeah.
guess, is that right?
Rickenbacker.
And they were trying to make me a flight instructor. And I hated that, nothing to do with that. But anyway, then from there I went to Savannah, Georgia, and they wanted me to transition into B-29s. And that didn't seem to appeal to me either because I had 3 children.
Yeah.
And well, I did enough. But then I stayed around down there and then I got out. Then I came back in 89 days.
Did you? Didn't
Yeah.
take you long to come back, huh?
Well,
You like that
there's a
flying?
reason, and you don't want to, I can tell you the reason if you want to hear.
Sure.
But anyway, I worked for my father-in-law, who's a wonderful man, and he is in the transfer business. And that's what I did before I got into service,
Is it?
working for him.
Mhm.
And moving furniture and coal, and also hauling coal business and that kind of thing. But we were above the Manus Theater in Greensburg, bringing a safe down from the 2nd floor. And we had block and tackle at the bottom, and Jimmy and I were at the bottom, and he and Phil were at the top. And the block and tackle broke and the safe come down. So I said, CA, I quit as of tonight. I'm going back in, and I re-enlisted. That was just 89 days, and I re-enlisted. There they were promised, oh, you can be a flying sergeant. So stupid me, I bought off of that, and that was wrong. From there we went to Panama.
To Panama.
Yeah.
Okay, now,
In
was
46.
this in 46? Okay, so this was after World War II had officially
Yeah,
ended.
yeah.
So then you guys, and what did you do in Panama?
I wound up having the best motor pool in the United States Air Force. Amazingly, I enjoyed that job no end.
Did you?
Because, well, I drove truck and everything before I got into service. I don't have a lot of education now, don't get me wrong. I'm a year and a half out of high school, and I was going through all, but the cadets and so forth, I learned all this. And I went to the University of Pittsburgh at night prior to enlisting.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a pilot, that was my goal and stuff. But anyway, we had the motor pool down there, and it was awarded as the best motor pool in the Air Force.
Wonderful.
And I
So
don't
what
know,
was
you know,
Panama like in 46? Was it still kind
quaint,
of
old.
jungly, or
What?
was it like a jungle? Was it pretty
Oh, no,
tropical? Or?
No, we had a base, well, I forget what we called it, where they went up and it was in the jungle, but
Mhm.
they have square trees and round frogs.
So how
No.
long were you there?
3 years.
3 years. Now your family was able to go there with you?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Okay. And then after you came back from Panama, you said you served in Korea. Would that be about the
No,
time?
no, I went to Francis E. Warren in Cheyenne, Wyoming. That was a wonderful assignment.
Yes. And how long were you in Cheyenne?
From 49, about 2 years, I guess, somewhere. I was the NCO, I was a master sergeant all this time.
Oh my.
No, I re-enlisted, and they made you flying sergeant. So stupid me, I bought it. But anyway, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I had more fun as a master sergeant and more authority at any time you become an officer. I'll tell you that right now. But then I was in the automotive school, and we had engines on stands and teaching people how to repair automotive engines. And then I got during the Korean War, they came by and wanted to know if anybody wanted to be recalled. So I said, well, I'll take a shot at that. And it just so happened they put me in for warrant officer at the same time prior to that being it. And I wound up, I was 3 ranks in one day. I was a master sergeant, warrant officer, and a captain in one day.
In one day. Oh, that must set a record in the
No, it was
military.
great. No, it was fun. And from there, then I went down to Denver to Target Intelligence. Is that what I went? I don't know what I went there then. Yeah, I think so. Target Intelligence. And then from there, I went to Korea. And that's where the Bronze Star came.
So you volunteered to go to Korea. Did your wife
Yes,
have any comment to make on
No,
that?
she's been very good. She's supportive all the way.
Yeah.
And there I went to headquarters, 5th Air Force.
Okay.
And I worked with the Joint Command, the Army and the Air Force. The 8th Air Force was, 8th Army was right across the street. And I was this way, and we would plan all the target. I couldn't fly, they wouldn't, I was getting old, they said, you're too old. I kept volunteering to fly all the time. So there we kept track of all the anti-aircraft positions and so forth in Korea. I used to know all the towns, but I don't anymore. But we had Colonel Winterbottom was the air targets officer, and he decided he wanted to knock out the dam above Pyongyang. And I said, well, it's heavily defended. He says, well, we don't care. We're going to get somebody in there. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie where they had dam busters in England, where they had the big thing.
Yeah.
So they kept hitting it with the Marines and the Air Force with the small bombs. Finally, they did break it. And when they broke the thing down through the city, and then we get recce photographs the day after, and you could see them having their weapons hanging out. There were a bunch of caves, and they'd run the weapons out there. They were hanging their clothes over to dry because they were above the water. But the whole town was wiped out with just the water, and that's where part of the Bronze Star came.
Oh my. So explain how you did that then? What
We just kept using the same 500-pound bombs at the
just repeatedly going after it?
after the dam.
Oh my. And how long were you in Korea?
A whole year.
A whole year? So what was it like being in Korea versus World War II? I mean, it was a police action termed instead of a war, so did you feel any difference there?
For me personally, it was a lot easier,
Was it?
but for some people, it was a lot rougher. They forget about Korea, but it was a terrible war or a police action, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I had it relatively easy. We were headquartered in a college building, and our mess hall was in the old Cadabra hall. So every time you ate, no, it really smelled. It wasn't too good, but that's where you ate.
Yeah.
No, in fact, I enjoyed all my tours. I enjoyed World War II. That's the wrong thing to say.
Well, I understand.
But my crew all says that. It's one of the best times they ever had, even though things were that way. Yeah. And the same way in Korea. I met a lot of nice people and had a lot of nice people to work with, including Marines and the Army, because it was a joint command.
Yeah. Now, you say you were there for a year. Now, did you come back to the States after that?
I came back and went to photo interpretation school.
Okay. And what was that? What is that?
That's where you get all the photographs and get them so they can stereo look down through,
Uh-huh.
determine whether it's a good building, bad building, the time of day, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then what you do with that is, we were getting into the B-47s and the B-36s.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have RBS sites all over the country. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's okay. Like Denver was an RBS site.
Now, what's an RBS site?
Radar bomb site.
Okay.
And after I graduated from photo interpretation, I went to Rapid City, South Dakota, which was a group of B-36s. In fact, we just started it up. And that's where the B-36s at would use radar to go to Denver, Washington, or whatever, and score, or do the RBS scoring. They look and see whether they got it. They would fly over the field, drop the film out, we'd go out and recover it and bring it back and score the radar film.
Mm-hmm.
And say, well, you got a shack, or you missed it by 500 feet, or whatever.
And this
that was really
films from Korea?
No, this was films from the United States.
Oh, okay.
Korea was gone.
Okay, this was a done deal at that time. Okay. I thought maybe you were still looking.
No.
Okay.
We're now
Okay.
local.
Okay.
And we'd pick up the film, and I don't know how many people were there. A lot of us would score it, and these pilots then would get, whether they get promotions or so forth, as a result of their, the whole crew would get a promotion out of that.
Uh-huh. And so how long did you do this?
Well, I stayed in the same field. I went from there to the Rookie Tech at Barksdale Air Force Base in SAC.
Okay.
Strategic Air Command, General LeMay.
Uh-huh.
One of the best tours I ever had in my life. He got you and you never got rid of you, as long as you did the job. But there we did.
Now, where was that? What
Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Okay. Bossier City, no, Bossier City. Bossier City. And there we would, I was in the Rookie Tech, 28th Rookie Tech, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And there again, we were doing all the radar scoring, but we were also getting into the field of map match. Whereas the B-47s, or I don't know what they do nowadays because I'm not current, but before we used to put this stuff in and they could fly. They would copy this on their screen and they would match what was on the screen to what was on the ground so they could fly.
Okay.
You go into Russia, you could,
Okay.
we're getting into almost classified stuff.
Oh, I understand. That's
But anyway, that's what I got into. And that was very interesting, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just starting out, just starting that kind of procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And the people there in the record, they were real great. So what we did is make on plexiglass and cut little pieces of brass. You would look at a photograph and see there was so many buildings and concentrated, say, oh, that'll give you a pretty good return.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd cut the brass to the size you would think that would be the return coming off. Then they would run it on a like a bomb scoring thing, on a thing, and see how it would come up and look at it. And what you had to do, you had to be awful careful. If you were looking at a building that had a large parking lot, you had to determine the time of day, because if the parking lot was full, your return would be so much brighter from radar with the cars, see.
Okay.
So you had to play all those kind of games, and that's what we did down there.
Oh my.
And then I went up to headquarters, Second Air Force, and we got into the Basic Intelligence Planning Guide, which had all the targets in Russia. And there we would lay out all the charts and stuff for it. And we'd play war games, go to SAC, Strategic Air Command, and play war games up there.
Okay.
Plus I'd go to Washington, D.C. and work with the, in the White House anyway, playing war games.
In the White House?
Down in the basement. Where
So they do have a basement in the White House.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yes. And how long were you how often would you go to Washington to do these?
Oh, I went there and I went to CIA, had a very good man there that we would look at photographs and say, or get human intelligence reports, and they'd say, well, there's an airfield we believe it's outside of Tashkent, such a miles. So I would call Dino at CIA and say, hey, we need this kind of information to help bring the chart up to date.
Right.
He says, well, okay, give me time, a couple of months, and I'll give you the information. And it wasn't long until we would have information back from a shoemaker or whatever.
Oh, wow. So it's
Well, that's all I did.
That's all, just,
Yeah.
okay. Well, that sounds pretty exciting.
Well,
So were you in Washington for long periods of time, or was this
No,
just
no,
for
no,
a week
no,
or
just
two,
we
kind
had-
of?
no.
Okay,
Other than when we played a war game, maybe it was 10 days or so.
okay.
And from there,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, from there we went to Hawaii.
Ah, that was a good
That was
tour
during the
duty.
Vietnam War, though.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there I worked with SINCPAC Fleet and all those joint commands.
So were you in Vietnam, or how?
No,
how
I
did
would
you-
go TDY all around the edges,
Mhm.
because what we did there, another sergeant and I, we started getting into computers.
Mhm.
And we had an old Burroughs 220. You know.
I know.
And so I said, well, this is terrible. You go behind the green door and those places for your intelligence.
Right.
And I said, we've got to get something to where we can at least spin around and look at certain areas what happened.
Right.
So every day, every night, we would work at late at night and do our little punch cards, then sort it, then load it onto tape. But we did it by degree square in Vietnam.
And
All
what's
the
that?
intelligence.
What's degree squared?
Well, when you have a map, you have lat and long.
Mhm.
So this is the degree of lat and
Okay.
longitude. So
Okay.
you could put that into the computer, and all the stuff in that particular degree would fall out. All the intelligence reports of happenings. So you didn't have to go through a whole bunch of paperwork to find it. So that's what we developed.
Ah,
And we'd go around briefing that stuff all over the place.
oh my. Okay.
And then
So,
I wound up at the Pentagon. Go down there for preparing target lists for Thursday afternoon. I don't remember now. For Johnson and McNamara and all the rest of them.
so you work directly with the White House from doing the computer intelligence in Hawaii?
No,
No?
no,
So
no, no.
this was
We
another.
sold it. Nobody knew about it happening.
Okay.
Until we go around and somebody say, well, what have you got over there? I said, well, just a minute. And we go down and load it on the computer and
Uh-huh.
have all this stuff right there. All the
Okay.
reports. It was a lot of, the two of us keeping it up. We worked late at night all the
Yeah.
time.
Okay, so now your family was able to go to Hawaii with you too?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah. This is after the war,
Okay.
after Korea, and after
Yeah.
the beginning of Vietnam. In fact, it was
What year was that?
1960 to 63.
Okay. And that's when you were in Hawaii?
Mm,
Okay. Now you say after this you worked at the Pentagon?
mm,
Okay.
To 65.
Okay.
That's when I had, never mind.
Oh, come
No,
on.
no, I enjoyed it there a little bit, but
What was it like working there
where at the
at the
Pentagon?
Pentagon?
Hard. See, I was one of the first ones back from the Vietnam area, because I did go to Philippines and those guys, went all around
Yeah.
finding out how we could jump in there. So we lived in Alexandria, Virginia, and I'd go to the Pentagon, work, and go back home for supper, and my wife would be out in the front door and go like this, and I'd just turn around and go back and go to work. It was hard work. It really was.
And what did you do there?
I was target intelligence.
In intelligence?
Yeah, same thing. In fact, I was looking for missile sites, like at Vin. I can't remember that one. There was one there that we come up with.
And then?
That's the name of the town.
Okay. In Russia?
No,
No?
Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Vin, yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
I thought you were kind of in the Pentagon a little later era, so I thought you were
No,
intelligence
well,
looking,
that's where
doing
we
Cold
were.
War kind
Yeah,
of.
well, you get reports and look at it,
Uh-huh.
then I'd send it over to the photo interpreters at DIA, Department of Intelligence for
Okay.
the Army.
Uh-huh.
And they would PI it and say yes or no,
Okay.
but it was yes. those kind of things.
It was pretty exciting though, even though it was hard work.
I didn't enjoy the Pentagon.
Didn't you?
No.
Why not?
Well, it was nice to say I worked at the Pentagon, but
Mm-hmm.
you were sort of lost in the shuffle, I think.
Were you?
Too many people, you know, you could brief target lists for Vietnam, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You could say, oh, they would say, look at this bridge, that's wonderful, we can knock that out and they won't be able to use it. But you could stand right up there and tell them, over in Korea, we did the same thing. And they would have their, oh, that's what we could, their people,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd be off to the side. The bridge would look out, and then they have all these people come over and they bring the thing over like this, portable, and they run right across. It'd be bamboo, maybe. And that's the way it was in Vietnam. Knock out a bridge and boom. How they still running that? And that's what they did. You have to look. You can't just look at the bridge. You have to look off to the side and see what they have on the side.
Yeah. Okay. So how long were you in the Pentagon? How many years?
I don't know. 63 to 65,
Were you?
something like that.
Okay. And then what did you do after that? Did you continue to stay in
No,
the service, or what?
no, I had a very good friend that said, that worked with Planning Research Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a contract at Navoshino.
Okay.
That's a naval chart production, okay?
Okay.
So he says, we need you. I was on top of the list to be lieutenant colonel and all that stuff. I said, okay, I'll go. I enjoyed my job more than anything else.
Uh-huh.
I said, okay, I'll go. So I got out on a Friday and went to work Monday
Oh my.
at Navoshino, which is somewhere in Maryland. I
Is
can't
it in
even remember
Maryland?
the
Okay.
Camp Springs.
Uh-huh.
And we went over there, and I pitied the Navy. No, they had all these old charts that had the swastikas stamped on them. That's all they had to go by. They weren't making new charts. They were trying to make new charts, but they couldn't keep up. Like the Air Force always kept
Mm-hmm.
as much as they could, current air target charts.
Mm-hmm.
So right away we got into that. Then we decided, well, maybe we can make a chart out of the computer, make a map.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, that's tough. Oh, let's try it. So we tried Cuba to make a chart out of Cuba. But there you had to get all the symbols for towns and different sizes for capitals and roads and brown and black. That was a tough job.
Very tedious job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think. So the outfit that did come out with the chart, I can't remember who it was. Somebody else beat it to us.
Okay.
Make a long story short. And I worked for them for quite a while, and
Did
then
you?
got out. Then I came out here to work for the same company. They called me back, see?
Oh.
So I went to FTD, is that what I want to say?
Foreign Technology Division?
And that killed me,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Didn't like that at all? Or?
Well, the place was fine, but you go in there and talk to those guys, and they had all these books on top shelf above their desk.
Uh-huh.
I said, wouldn't you like to have that in the computer where you don't get rid of all that? And they didn't like
They didn't like that idea, huh, very much, huh?
No.
No? Oh, my.
So that wasn't long till I quit. I said, that's enough of that.
So that didn't take long. I mean, you left up the service on a Friday and took a civilian job on a Monday, right? Is that, okay. Just kind of concluding, do you want, whatever you would like to say in conclusion, you know, this tape is going to be viewed by the next generation, and what would you advise, or what would you like to pass on to them about your time in the service? Words of wisdom, advice, memory?
All I know is from my own experience, and young people today, they don't seem to have a specific goal when they go to any school. I mean, if you say, what are you studying? They say, well, I haven't made up my mind yet. See, whereas in my era, most of the kids all knew, I knew what I wanted to do. The only thing I was derailed by getting married and so forth, which was fine. I mean, and I got the job that I wanted. Now, we never on welfare or anything like that. But I knew what I wanted to do in the back of my mind. I read books about it, about flying, and I read stories about the Red Baron and all this kind of stuff. And I knew, and as soon as the war happened, if it hadn't been for the war, I don't know where I'd have wound up, really. So the war gave me my additional education, the satisfaction of being able to do what I wanted to do. And to me, I'm really, shall I say, how should I say, I'm really proud of what I did, because I don't expect anything for it, but I just feel good because I got into service. I was married, 2 children, only a year and a half of high school, and everything else came along, and I went into all this other material, and plus I'm old.
Old is a state of mind. Okay.
That's it.
That's it. Great. Let me see if I can get everything stopped.
Yeah.